The sun is shining very bright, and it's very hot outside. And you're starting to get tired. You've already been standing for an hour, and Domini Schulte does not show any sign of being done with his sermon yet. It could go on for another hour. The sweat's starting to run down the back of your neck, but you don't dare move too much, or your mama's going to look at you very funny. But off in the corner of your eye, you can see the horses playing in the field. And you can see the farmer's dogs running around. You think, boy, it'd be a whole lot more fun to be playing with the dogs than it would be to be listening to Domini Schulte right now, because it's really hot. And I'm so bored. And then you notice your parents kind of looking off that way. And you look, and there's somebody coming down the road. And more of the parents are trying to look this way now, and they're grabbing their children a little closer to them. You see the Domini's eyes start to turn down the road. And you know something's up. But he doesn't quit preaching. He keeps right on going. And pretty soon the cloud of dust coming up the road resolves itself into a troop of soldiers. And they come right up to the platform, and they grab the Domini by the shoulder, and they say, "All right then, preacher. Your sermon is over now. You all people go home. This meeting is closed." Somebody had found out where they were meeting. Somebody must have told. Your church, of course, had been closed officially by the state. Holland had its own church. And the Domini and his congregation and several others, why, we didn't agree with what the state church of Holland believed in. Well, we decided we'd rather go over here and worship by ourselves. And the state church of Holland did not think that was a good idea. So a few weeks ago, they closed your church. And they locked it up. And so instead, the Domini passed around word that this Sunday we would meet out in the farmer's field. And they wouldn't find us. But they did. The next Sunday, the word had passed around to go down to the waterfront. And everybody got into small boats and rowed out into the harbor behind the bigger ships. And when you got out there, there was your family and all the other families, and there was the Domini in one boat, and he had church out on the harbor. And everybody sang, and they had the sermon, and nobody found out about it that week. The next morning, your father comes home early. He's never come home early from work before. No, not even on holidays. He works hard. And he says to his mother, "Mom, I don't know what we're going to do. They fired me at the mill today. I haven't got a job. They said they don't want to work with dissenters like us." Your family figures they'll be all right. They'll figure something out. But then the next afternoon, Mama comes home from the grocer's. And she says, "Papa, the grocer won't sell me anything. He says he doesn't want to be seen doing business with dissenters like us." "Well, Mama, we'll go to the Domini. He'll know what to do." And there in the Domini's parlor on the high street, they found a whole crowd of people. Most of the congregation had been turned out of their jobs, were turned out of their homes. Nobody would sell them food. And they said, "Domini, what are we going to do?" And the Domini answered, "I have a plan. Our brothers and sisters in Germany are persecuted when they want to worship differently from the state church. And do you know what they did? They went to America. That's what we're going to do. We will sell our things here and we will go to America." And your mother and father said, "Domini, go to America. How are we going to afford to do that? It's fine for you. You're well-to-do. We haven't got any money." Domini says, "I know that. And you're right. I'm very well-to-do. And so are many of the men in this church. We don't care. We will sell everything we have. And we will divide it equally among everyone. We will all go to America. No one will be left behind." It was the spring of 1846. as this happens. Your family becomes enthralled with the business of packing things up and selling things. And the dominie begins to clear out his house, and he has one of the best houses in all of Utrecht. He's got fine paintings and candelabra and silver, and he sends it all off to be sold. Oh, well, except for his books, because he needs his books, he says. And they kept one of the very nice oil paintings. They plan all through that year. And finally, in the spring of 1847, your family and all the rest are ready to go. There, by the time it's all done, are 700 of you. You head to Bremen to take passage on ships. The dominie has gone on ahead by steamship. You all haven't got quite enough money to go by steamer, so you go by sail. It's going to take us 50 days to get to America. Everyone nervously heads up on board the ship. You have your few clothes, and then you have bags of food. Enough food for each person to have meals for 50 days crossing the ocean. And you troop down. You go past the first deck of cabins because you can't afford the first deck of cabins. And down past the second deck because, well, we don't have money for nice second deck cabins. Into the hold. We all book passage on steerage. And the women set down their bags and say, "This is appalling! These ships are filthy! No one bothers to clean the steerage holds. Why, the poor people don't mind it." Everyone knows that Dutch women are fiercely clean. The national motto of Holland is, if everyone sweeps his own front steps, why, the whole world will be clean. And that's what they did. They got out their buckets and mops and brooms, and they set to work cleaning those ships. And they cleaned those holds from stem to stern, and not a bit of dirt was left in them. And so you set sail. Most of you had never been to sea before, and the first couple of days were very exciting. Most of you were varying degrees of sick, and there in the hold, there wasn't much room for being sick. There were about 200 of you on each ship, and there were 4 ships. Each of the ships had some buckets in the hold, in case you were sick, or needed to use the facilities, and that was about it. There were also 2 stoves in each hold for the 200 people on each ship to make their food. But you managed it. The children went up and played on deck many of the days. And finally, after 50 days at sea, you hear one of the hands yell, "Land ho!" And there off in the distance, you get your first view of America.